Hello YouTube, we are on the Real Programming channel. It is about HTML and CSS. My name is Andrei. I greet you, welcome on my channel. This is our 77th lesson about positioning the award. Continue. We want the award to sit just about in the middle of the page when the browsers open to 800 pixels, a typical size for browser weights, and just overlapping the mount content div. So we're going to use the top and the left properties to position the award 30 pixels from the top and 365 pixels from the left. And the award code. We're using absolute position for the award div that is 30 pixels from the top and 365 pixels from the left. Add this CSS to your CSS Starbus file, save and reload the web page. You'll see the award image appear like magic right where we want it. Make sure you resize the browser to see how the award displays. There are no dumb questions. Seems like absolute position is better than float because I have more control over where the elements go. Should I prefer absolute positioning over floating? Not really. It just depends on what you need. If you really need an element to appear at precise position in the page, then absolute positioning is the way to go. But if you want to say here have text flow around an image, you can easily do that with absolute positioning. In that case, you'll definitely want to use float. You'll find uses for both fairly regularly. I was playing with a couple of absolutely positioned div elements, and one always is displayed on top of the other. Is there a way I can change with one is on top? Yes, every positioned element has what is called z-index, which is the ordering of the elements on end and imaginary. Z-axis, think of it as pointing out of your screen. Use it like this. div1, div2. Those rules would place the element with ID div2 and on top of the element with an ID div1. How do I know what that index each element on the page is by default? You don't really, unless you inspect the CSS the browser computes for each element in the page with developer tools. But most of the time you won't care about the index of elements unless you are specifically layering them or you run into a situation like we did with the award. Usually just setting the z-index to is the one is good enough to make sure an element is above other elements in the page. But if you have multiple elements you are positioning and layering yourself, you'll have to be a little more deliberate about the index values. Is there a maximum z-index value? Yes, but it's a very large number, and practically you'll never need your z-index values to go that high. What about negative z-index values? Can you have z-index values of, say, -1? Yes, you can. The same rules apply. That is more positive and larger the value, the higher the layer, and the closer it is to you on the screen. Can any element have a z-index? No, only elements that have been positioned with CSS using absolute, relative, or fixed positioning. You'll see an example of fixed positioning next. Hey, can we get a coupon on the site and put it right in customers' faces so they can't miss it? I'd like to offer one free coffee to everyone who clicks on the coupon for a limited time. Of course, that's just the words we've been waiting for right in the customer's face. Why? Because it's going to give us the opportunity to try a little fixed positioning. This is the last kind of positioning we're going to use in the chapter, so let's make it fun. What we're going to do is put a coupon of the page that always stays on the screen even if you scroll. Is this a great technique to make your users happy? Probably not, but work with us here. It is going to be a fun way to play with fixed positioning. And how does fixed positioning work? Compared to absolute positioning, fixed positioning is pretty straightforward. With fixed positioning, you specify the position of any element just like you do with absolute positioning, but the position is an offset from the edge of the browser's window rather than the page. The interesting effect this has is that once you place it content with fixed positioning, it stays right where you put it in and doesn't move even if you scroll the page. So, say you have a div with an ID of coupon, you can position the div fixed to a spot 300 pixels from the top of the viewport and 100 pixels from the left side like this. Here is the ID selector for the coupon div. We are using fixed positioning. Position the coupon 300 pixels from the top and 100 pixels from the left. You can also use right and bottom just like with absolute position. And here is where the element gets positioned with the viewport. And once you got an element positioned, then comes the fun. Scroll around, it doesn't move. Resize the window, it doesn't move. Pick up your monitor and shake it. It doesn't move. Okay, just kidding on the last one. But the point is, fixed position elements don't move. They are there for good as long as the page is displayed. Now we're sure you're already thinking of fun things to do with the fixed positioning. But you got a job to do. Let's get that coupon of the Starbucks page. Put in the coupon of the page. Now we are going get the free coffee coupon on the page. Let's start by creating a div for the coupon to go into. And here is the div with an ID of coupon. Inside it we've got an image of the coupon, which you'll find in the chapter 11 Starbucks images folder. And we wrapped the image in an element so that users can click on the image to be taken to a page with a coupon they can print. Go ahead and add this div at the bottom of your index.html file just above the footer. Because we are going to position it, the placement in the HTML will only matter to browsers that don't support positioning, and here the coupon isn't important enough to have at the top. Now let's write in the CSS to position the coupon. We're setting the coupon to fixed position 330 pixels from the top of the viewport, and let's put the left side right up against the edge of the viewport. So we need to specify 0 pixels from the left. We need to style the image and the links to our device. We may have borders popping up on the image because it is clickable. So let's set the border on the image to none and do the same on the links. We are using the same property for both, so we can combine the rules into one. Remember that we have a rule in the CSS that says to turn off text decoration and use a border to underline links instead. Here we're ordering that rule for the link in the coupon div and saying we don't want any border on the link. Go back and look at the original CSS if you need to remind yourself of the other rules for the links. And put in the coupon of the page. So that's the new coupon rules to your Starbucks CSS file. Save and reload the page. You may need to make the browser smaller to be able to see that the coupon stays put even when you scroll. Clicking on the coupon should take you to the free coffee HTML page. You know this looks great, but it might just be even more snazzy if the coupon was offset to the left. So it looks like it's coming out of the side of the viewport. Now we could get into our photo editing software and cut off the left side of the image to create that effect. Or we could just use negative offset so that the left side of the image is positioned to the left of the edge of the viewport. That's right, you can do that. And using a negative property value, specify negative property value just like you do a position 1, you put a minus sign in front like this. By specifying minus 90 pixels, we are telling the browser to position the image 90 pixels to the left of the edge of the viewport. This is. And the browser will gradually position the image to the left of the viewport for you, and only the part of the image that is still on the screen will be viewable. And a rather positive negative test drive, we will talk about this in the next lesson. And this is our 77th lesson over. Thanks for watching, subscribe to my channel, please put likes, share with friends, comment. Eat bananas, eat fruit, read more books about this, and be sure to study regularly. Drink water for brains. Bye.